then you just walk every couple feet, and however many you need to
at least 10 pebbles per transect, and you want to get 10 transects. So those are the two key things. So if you get more than 10 pebbles in a transect, that's fine. But you still want to get at least 10 transects. It's always okay to have more than 100 pebbles at your site. You get 11 transects, then do it.
Okay. So why wouldn't you get 10 pebbles in a transect?
Sometimes the streams, some of these streams, they're literally 6 feet wide. And so, you're like counting, you're doing a step like this, and even then sometimes it's tough to get 10 pebbles. So, you might have to do more than 10 transects.
How many steps?
So what I would do is just kind of tend to, 10 transects, if I step about every 18 to 24 inches, roughly, I'll get about 10 transects, or 10 pebbles in this crossing. But it can vary a little bit.
And so you would just step and, okay, this is where I'm going to do it. This is the pebble that my finger hit. And then you measure. Is that how you do it?
Right, but, so let's...
You start right there.
Yeah, let's go up here. Say you decide to do it across here. And you want to pick your point that you're going to end up at across the stream. And that's what you want to look at as much as possible when you're walking across. You don't want to look down where you're going to put your foot. So you take your first step, and still looking there, you take your index finger and decide which foot it's going to be. It doesn't really matter, but I always just do my right foot. And you don't look down, but you just run your finger over the toe of your boot, and the first rock I touch is what you pick up. So you don't just go out here like this. It's always over the toe of the boot. You're touching the toe of your boot. Index, well, you can use whatever finger you want. I use the index finger. And the first pebble, first inorganic substrate you touch, that's what you measure. And you take your smoky ruler, and the form's in millimeters, so use the metric. And what you want to do, let's use a bigger rock. Let's grab a couple here. Pull up, then just pick the median axis, and I'll talk about that in a second, to the best of your ability and measure it. Again, especially in the larger size classes, they're so wide, don't worry about it. And if you get big, huge boulders, I mean like big boulders,
bedrock.
there is a class for bedrock.
Bedrock, yeah.
If you can measure it, it's a boulder, but if it may fall into the bedrock class. There's been another, well, I'll get to that in a second. So what you want to do is you want to measure the median axis. So the median axis is not the longest, and it's not the narrowest, but it's the one in between. So I would measure this one right across here. Am I going to be on TV?
This is going on YouTube.
So on this one, again, it wouldn't be this way, and it wouldn't be this way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of them are kind of the same.
apart, yeah.
It would be right in here. Again, don't get too hung up on it because it's going to fall in a range, and and it'll all average out is what I'm getting at. So don't get too wigged on, well, this or this could be the median. Just pick one you think.
Is it 11 or is
Once
it
you get
12?
going on this, they'll go fast. I mean,
We have 100 to do, so yeah.
well, okay, then you better hope so. So same with this. It's not
100 pebbles,
it's
yeah.
not long. It's not the shortest. It
Okay.
would be something like this.
And that one was embedded, and you just
And I
pull
just
that
pulled
out.
it out,
Okay.
and then you measure it. Boom. You take another
Downstream.
step.
Downstream.
Grab this one. Measure it. Call it out. Boom.
Okay.
You
Every one
just-
step.
Well,
Or, no, every right foot.
Well, it depends on the width if you're trying to
Yeah.
to space it. So he was saying if it was a really, depending on how wide it is, you try and mentally think how you're going to space 10.
10. Okay. 1/10. Okay.
Yeah,
And-
roughly.
Right. And you said for narrower streams, you would go maybe at least 6 inches apart for each of
I would, on a really narrow stream, my tactic has usually been to add more transects as
Right.
opposed to just going to here
Right.
and then there.
Right.
And then, I mean,
Right.
come on, and,
Right.
But it does bring up an interesting question, and this happens, and this And I'll try and find the Woolman paper that this is based on. I know we have it.
Julia, you'd found that, right?
Well, there are several Woolman
paper?
papers.
Okay.
Every university seems to have their own method paper.
Well, I can drum up the one that we use.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if it even talks about this, but there's been questions with us. What if there's bedrock, or if there's a big huge boulder and you step on it twice? Some people I've heard just only measure it once and they move on. My take is you stick with your kind of step thing, and if you measure it twice, that's fine. Again,
That
it comes
shows-
out in the wash.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's you're looking at a percentage of the total, and to me, if it's that much of that area,
Right.
then that's
That's-
accurately
yeah.
describing that. But you need to decide that ahead of time,
Right.
and just be
Okay.
consistent.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing I can try and find, I know we have like 3 of them at Hood River. I looked for one at Barlow this morning and couldn't. It's a thing called a gravelometer.
Fancy.
And if you're really going to use it, you have to say it like this. Gravelometer.
That sounds like that must have been Ivers.
No. But we had a lot of fun with it. It's this goofy metal thing, and it's got all these squares that correspond to different sizes. And basically, you take your pebble, and the smallest hole it'll fit through is this, and there's numbers next to that hole. The smallest hole it fits through is the size that it corresponds to.
And that theoretically should correspond to the median.
Yeah, it theoretically you'd get the same results this way or with a gravelometer, but for a lot of people, the gravelometers, it takes out a lot of the guesswork.
Right.
Because the way it's supposed to work is it automatically finds the median.
Well, if you
Or
had
you,
one
right.
that you would be willing to loan to us, that would be great.
I think we do.
We need that. I need one of those.
Yeah,
It's nothing super cool. It's not like it's some, you know.
Sounds
camera-
awesome.
Your phone's a lot cooler than that.
But it can't measure a median.
I don't know.
Pebble
Try it,
size.
Maybe you can.
There's probably an app.
Yeah, try not to look down at the substrate when you're, taking your finger, running it over your boot, first pebble you touch. And, again, sometimes,
And so it would, if you're, pebble that, like a sand piece, I could see how you might be biased to not hit that, unless it's all sand.
right. And you can, even on a ruler like that, you can measure a millimeter piece or larger. We generally don't try and, let me see the form.
I don't have. I think.
I got them. Well, yeah, are you going
Okay,
to?
you have several size categories below 1 millimeter. We don't worry about that. I mean, if it's less than a millimeter, we just lump them all.
Right.
Okay.
Because from a fish perspective, it doesn't really matter. I mean, anything, a lot of the literature talks about sediment less than a millimeter and then sediment less than 6 millimeters, and as being
Yeah.
problematic, and it depends on the area and the fish. So
Okay.
we kind of figured, who cares if it's a 1/2 millimeter or a 1/4 millimeter or whatever.
Okay. Tetra Tech advises less than 2 millimeters.
Yeah.
Percent Savile fine.
We've done that
SAFN,
too.
yeah.
One reason we went to 1 is our forest plan talks about sediment substrate size classes less than a millimeter as one of our standards, and so that's why we reincorporated that. If you want to be consistent with what we did, you're going to want
Which
to.
I think we should. I mean, because then
Yes,
we can always
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can. Yeah.
lump the less than one with the 1 to
Aggregate
2.
yeah. You
Yeah.
can you can
Great.
split that really easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it looks like you just make a little circle
Right.
for when
tally.
somebody yells out, less than 1 circle.
The other thing you're going to need to do is, so for a lot of these, okay, coarse sand is 1 to 2 millimeters, very fine is 2 to 4. Say
But what if
somebody,
it's 2?
right? Somebody calls
Yeah.
out 2. So the person recording says bigger or smaller, and the person measuring has to kind of make a call. Is this more coarse sand or very fine gravel? I mean, it's kind of a judgment thing. Again, I think it all kind of works out in the wash.
Especially as long as you're consistent with how you're making your calls.
Right, and it it happens. It's not all the time, but it happens. But it every size class for the most, well, they all have a common number. So you're gonna
And so
Okay.
for this particular site, you'd started wherever, worked upstream, and there were only pool tails. There were no riffles. Since
we were splitters. When you're looking at this from a site perspective and certainly from a stream perspective,
Okay.
all you really care about is what's the overall substrate composition. And
right.
so I don't think you need to worry about that.
Okay.
Okay.
And
I mean,
so
you can, but I don't think you need to.
I don't think we care about that.
Roskin doesn't do that. He doesn't
Yeah.
care.
I think we only care if it's in a pool. We need to mark that so we can subset out the pools when we are comparing
Because
to
they didn't do
RBS.
pools.
Right.
Right. And so
Anything that you excluded, that would be in the RBS method.
because the RBS
we
uses everything,
because they're
the-
looking at
all
all
the
of,
habitats.
all of the habitats.
and so this would not be a pool.
Well, right now it would be,
But-
Hmm.
But that's going to be hard
it's going to be
with
tough.
how low the flows are.
Yeah, you're going to need to be kind of make some decisions on, you know, you're going to go with what it is now or what you think it would be with 10 more CFS.
Right.
I mean, I'm not sure what to tell you there.
Yeah. Well, and what time of year did you guys do these?
August.
So it would have been a low flow
Yeah.
time of year, although I'm not sure it would have been as low as it is this year.
8:14. for the
Would you
specific one.
do it if it was dry? If the creek were dry? Like Dry Creek this
You
time
know,
of year.
That's a yes. I have done pebble counts in dry creeks, and there you just have to look at the topography of the stream
If
bed
it-
and kind of figure out. You know,
Where your
obviously
bank flow
the
would be.
deeper parts are going to be the pools, and you don't survey those, and the pool tails and riffles are going to be a little bit more pool taily and riffly.
Yeah.
I've got that on camera.
That's very technical.
I'm gonna review that.
That was a good idea to bring that video.
I bring it with me everywhere.
I'm not sure.
I'm
that's-
recording everything.
To think about recording, I wouldn't have.
I think after our lunch conversation.